Welcome to another episode of Just and Joyful. I'm your host, Kristin Carver-Smith, or KCS, as most folks call me these days. Angelina Burkholder is here with me, and we have a very special treat today. This is what we would call an audio snack. And our audio snacks are going to be delving into the behind the scenes of my new music. Mm-hmm. They are going to be exploring what we call gut checks, which is that can look like I'm checking in with myself. Perhaps I have Angelina join me. Maybe I have a friend join me. You know what a gut check looks like. It's when you call someone, when you check in with yourself and you go like, wait, hold on. How is this sitting with me? How does this feel? Am I into this? What's happening? Let's unpack that. So in these short 20, 30-minute episodes, our Just and Joyful listeners are going to get all the tea, all the behind the scenes. And so today, we're so excited for our very first cup of tea, our very first audio snack. And it's with a very special treat that only our Just and Joyful listeners are getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So strap in, because we're about to take off. Something very exciting is happening next week.
Oh, is it?
It sure is. So you are listening to this probably on maybe a Friday, if you're listening to it on the day it comes out. And if you keep your ears peeled, you will hear something even more wonderful in a week. Kristin, do you want to tell them what's coming?
Yes. Okay. Pause for dramatic effect.
It deserves it. It deserves it.
I feel like it does.
It does.
I don't know. I just feel like it does. So, dun. In 1 week, I am going to be releasing the first single from part 1 of my debut album, Light Through. That single is titled, also drum roll, I really hope Joshua can add a drum roll right here, is Bloom.
Bloom. And what, we've been having amazing weather. The sun is coming out. It's warmer. Even just hearing that, the title of the song makes me just feel like I'm ready for spring. So obviously no one's heard this yet unless they're in your tight circle and they've gotten to hear demos and early versions of it. Can you give us a little, a little soundbite tease?
Yeah. So it's so crazy. I was looking back at my phone, and the first recording I have of this song was March 8th, 2024. So by the time that this comes out, it will have been over 2 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just, it feels surreal for it to actually, be happening. But man, it's, the song is so, so special and dear to me.
And, sometimes if you're not in the process of making art regularly, hearing that, you had this first version of the song 2 years ago, and here we are 2 years later.
Yeah.
And you're finally getting to share it with the world. That can feel like such a long process. But I'm curious to hear from you, what did it look like in those 2 years for you to take it from that first idea into what the finished product that it'll be to get released?
Yeah. Well, I would say a couple of things on that. So the first thing that I would say is that as a publicist, for the last 13 years, I've had a front row seat to watching the lengthy process of art creation for all of the people that I've had the pleasure of working alongside of. And you have too, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's we know that books aren't written in, 2 months and then suddenly they're out. A lot of times books are written a year and a half, 2 years in advance, 8-9 months in advance. And so sometimes it feels like it's the creation of this thing and then the birth of it It's like,
Yeah.
you're talking about, it's like the 2 years, that waiting period is so tough. And I think for me, when I think about this song in particular, where I was at in March of 2024 was a very different space than where I was, or where I am, today. And again, 2 years later. And so that song, the song actually came to me before my mental health emergency. Now I'll say there were lots of signs that, we would be headed in that direction, if that makes sense. Like I look back at the song and I just go like, it's incredible that somehow I think I knew even at the time that I would need it later.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of what like all of the songwriting process has looked like for me, is that it's been very much like my writing process is, it's like, so it will come to me and I call it the download. Like I'm like, it literally feels like the melody and the lyrics are downloaded to me within, sometimes it's a matter of like 30 minutes or an hour. And when it starts happening, I'm like, no one speak to me. No, it's like, it's happening. And that's exactly what happened with Bloom, is that I woke up one morning and it was like already on my spirit. And I can like remember being in my living room and like writing. And I actually kind of had like a different melody for it at the time. And by the time I went into the studio, like I remember going into the studio later that day and being like, this is like, we got to work on this. This is so important.
Wow. So I'm curious if you remember what maybe the first line was that came to you, or was it, when you're in your songwriting process, is that how it happens? Like a line comes to you and like the words follow it. Does it start with a feeling? Like what does that, like, can you take us into your process a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the first line of the song is, "This winter is so bare." And that was very much the season that I was moving through, right? March 8th, 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee you're pretty close to spring. And yet for me, all of everything in my life was starting to feel really bare. It was feeling really stripped. It was feeling, I think of how much gets peeled back in winter, and again, how much is actually laid bare. And that was absolutely the season that I was in. And I could see, again, winter in Nashville, Tennessee is very much, or, March 8th is like, you could be having 70-degree days, right? So stuff could absolutely be popping out of the ground. And it feels like, oh yeah, spring is here, spring is happening. And for me, that song is talking about like, I'm desperate for spring air. And it's like, I just felt like I was in a perpetual winter and spring was never going to come for me. And so the process looked like me sitting down and just like, like I said, I could just start kind of hearing it in my head. And I was like, this winter is so bare. I'm desperate for spring air. Like, it's like, it was this like, it was like this breathy, like angst, it was like the pain had to leave. And that's kind of like my process can look like that often.
So then, you mentioned that day you went into the studio and you were like, actually, we got to work on this. How do you take what you hear and what all of this inspiration, and, you said, don't talk to me, I'm downloading. How do you take all of this then and hand that to someone to make music out of it?
Yeah. Well, here's what's kind of interesting is that, I feel like I've always been like music industry adjacent, even though I have sang forever and actually sang in like I was part of our like chapel, like our praise band in high school. I took voice lessons when I was younger. Like, then there's this gap of my life where I wasn't engaging in anything musically beyond singing in the shower and singing, maybe singing for my own enjoyment and pleasure and things like that, which let's not diminish that. That's incredibly important. But I also I never learned how to read music. I'm not someone who's like, that's a C. Wow, this is a minor and a major. I don't, that's not for me. I have been writing songs since I was 8 years old. I have diaries and journals filled with other things and filled with lyrics. And for me, it's always been story driven. It's always been this is how I have survived. This is how I have processed. This is how I've celebrated. This is how I've lamented. And so that, taking that into, the studio and working with my producer, who's very much used to, I think that some of the traditional songwriting process can often be you're actually starting with instruments, you're starting with melody, all of those things. And then lyrics are perhaps placed on top of those things. Now, again, everybody does it, very differently. And it might be that, lyrics and melody come for someone at the same time, and then they know how to play those things. Yeah. I don't know how to play those things, but what I can tell you is there's another song on the album called Manna, and I remember being in the closet for that one and I could hear the piano. I knew I was it's ooh, 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 ooh. And I took that into the studio and was that's the piano. That's that's the, I need you to bring that part to life. And it was the same for Bloom, is going in and, sharing with my producer of here's the melody, here's the lyric, here's the whole thing. And us him having to play to okay, hold on, let's, and me describing to him, it's actually, since the song is so barren, it's we're going to need strings. It's going to be acoustic guitar, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be, so it's but we speak two different languages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm very interested in that. Because I feel for myself, when I'm creating something, it's such a deeply personal thing. Mm-hmm. And so even, for me, my medium is writing primarily in an essay form. Giving that to someone to edit, that's a very vulnerable thing to do, because you've built this thing, why you've done certain things. Yeah. And now you're asking someone to put their perspective on top of it and provide feedback. And so when I think about you going into the studio and giving that to a producer, and you said, we speak two different languages, how do you retain your vision, or is there parts of it where you you feel okay, I need to incorporate his vision into this? What does that process look like?
Yeah. I think when we first began working together, well, first let me say this. Also, if you don't follow Angelina's work, Angelina is an incredible writer, an essayist, and poet, and all the things. Absolutely. You need to be following her work. I would say when Skylar, that's the name of my producer, Skylar Schotz, when Skylar and I first started working together, I don't think I knew how to communicate as well, at the time, for what maybe I was hearing and, all of that sort of stuff. And so it's been so cool to I like to think of myself as a pretty good communicator, having worked in and still working in comms, and being able to communicate a vision well, communicating a vision while speaking a different language. And I know that we're not literally talking about another language, but it felt like that. Yeah. And sometimes still feels like that of, do I have every opportunity to learn how to play an instrument and to learn how to do this stuff? Absolutely. Will I take advantage of that in the future? Probably. Mm-hmm. Although I can't say for certain, because to be honest, my life is pretty busy. Mm-hmm. And I think that was some of the tension sometimes, is he would hear it this way and I would hear it this way, and working together on you know, for me, I would always, the story has to take center stage always. And then what would happen for me as I was writing is this, like, I would get a visual for each song. And so being able to, I ended up, like, very practical thing to do. If anybody's listening to this and struggles with, hey, how am I going to communicate this? And you're super visual. I ended up going to Canva, and I actually, like, put together a creative guide for all of the songs. And so I started putting together, like, this is the visual that I see with this. And, like, this, so bringing that to our meetings, like bringing that to the studio and going, like, see this visual of bloom, which for me was very much this, like, the sky is gray. It's a little gloomy. It's a little, like, wintry almost. We all know what that looks like, you know, where it's like that it could snow type sky. And it's like this, you know, these barren trees. And it's like, they're, you know, it's like, it's dark, it's moody, it's, you know, it's like I had this very vivid scene. Yeah. And so bringing that into him and saying, hey, sonically, this is what we're trying to capture. This is what we want people to feel. Like, it's got to sound barren. It's got to sound like a little gritty. It's got to sound a little rough. That helped dictate what instruments and who, right, we even brought to the table to help play on that track. And so that has been helpful for us of, like, we've kind of, now I feel like we get each other, but it's been 2 years of us doing that.
Yeah. And it's, you know, building trust and building a type of collaboration that allows the work to flow, like, that takes time. And I think sometimes we give up too quickly when we're used to working solo, and then suddenly the work becomes a collaborative effort. So I'm curious for you, you know, you said that there was this period in your life where music did become very much just a personal thing, where it was mostly for you and I'm sure for Nick around the house. But I'm curious, you know, how have you felt through that transition of taking your work and your art into a more public space, into a collaborative space?
Yeah. That's a really good question. There's part of me that's like, it's been going on for so long that I'm like, it's so exciting to finally share it. There's another part of me too that's, you know, I think all of us get nervous to share things that are deeply personal. And for me, music and art is incredibly personal, to share that with the world. And, you know, I recognize that it's like, art is so subjective. Music is so subjective. And so everyone's going to have their own thoughts and opinions about how they think it should sound, or what the word should be, how long it should be, what I should even look like. Right. Yep. Like, it's like, there's a lot of opinions. And, you know, I think I've had to really do deep work the past 2 years to unattach myself from, you know, doing this for any sort of, like, outcome beyond, I love it and I'm having fun with it. And so it's like, I think that's the place where I'm at now, is I'm like, I want to listen to my own songs. Yes. So it's like, it's like if it's only ever public so I can listen to it without having to pull up a file on my phone. Cool. Like, I'm so good with that. Yeah. I'm so good with that.
Well, there's going to be at least one other person.
My mom?
Me?
My husband? Yes.
Well, so then there's several. There's several. Look.
Right. I've got like 5 listeners. It's like,
it's going to be, I think, I'm sure that listeners to the pod are just like, it's just exciting to see this part of you be given as much attention as all the other parts of you. So I'm curious, you know, for people who, as they're like listening, I'm just imagining like myself listening to this and getting amped up and being like, I have to wait a week for this. That's cruel. That's a little cruel, but you know what? It's good to be patient. But I'm curious, you know, as you're releasing this single, but all of this is leading up to part 1 of the album release in April. Why was Bloom chosen as the first single of this part?
I think for me, this song, it's not the first song that I wrote on the album. It's the second. And so it feels interesting to start with the second instead of the first. But
Yeah.
I think for me, this song in a lot of ways feels like the beginning of the transformation and the healing and the heartbreak
Yeah.
and the hard, even like over the past year and a half, 2 years. So to me, I mean, you know, I have wrestled with like, gosh, it would be so nice to like start with a really happy song, which that one is coming. See you April 17th. Like that.
Yep.
It's absolutely a treat. And, this one just like in my spirit and my gut just feels like this is the place to start. It's the place to begin. Cause the song is where I feel like I began again.
So it almost feels like, you know, you mentioned earlier that this song was written before your mental health emergency. It almost feels like you were, and I think you had mentioned this offline, that you were kind of writing what you would need down the road.
Yeah.
Well, given that, we can never, like you said, art is so subjective. We can never guarantee that people will take away from our work what we hope that they will. But
Yeah.
I'm also just like curious to hear, what do you hope that people will take from this song?
I think about how many times that music has been in the background of my breakdowns, of my breakthroughs, of what I call my light through moments. Nice nod to the album name. More on that soon. And I think for me, I hope that this song, I know that there's so many people who can relate to. It can be very tough to be quite literally in summer, in spring, even in fall, and feel like you're in the winter, like to feel like you're in the desert. And so I'm just hoping that this song is also like that it's a balm, that it's a salve, that it's a companion, that it's like a reminder of like, oh my gosh, other people have been in this season. And, the chorus talks about, you say my spring is coming. And, it's like your spring is coming, your spring is coming. And that's what I hope that like mantra can kind of wash over people.
Yeah.
Your spring is coming. Mine did.
That's beautiful. Before we transition out of this episode, I'm curious if you would first tell us where we can find the song next week, and then also if you would maybe do us the honor of just giving us like a little bit, a line or two.
A little snack.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A little snack on top of the snack.
Well, I mean, we love extra snacks.
We do.
We are humans who love to eat and snack. The song will be available anywhere you stream. And that's just like, even just saying that, I'm like, that feels good. That feels good. Yeah. 2 years later, let me tell you, that feels really good.
What an accomplishment.
Yeah. And then, I'd be happy to give a little treat. Yeah. But you tell me it's too soon. You say just a little longer, dear. You say that my spring is coming. Your spring is coming. Your spring is coming. And you'll bloom, you'll bloom, you'll bloom when you're supposed to.
Chef's kiss. Listen. I'm like getting tears just from that little bit. And I've gotten to hear some demos, And I'm
Yes,
telling
you
you,
have.
I'm
Yes.
telling you, do not miss this. Like you gotta tune in. I mean, it is such like you said, it's such a song that makes you feel seen in the hardness, but there's such like a push pull between, for me, like it's not just a song about being in the hardness. It's like there's like this promise of what comes after. And
It's
so
almost like it embodies just and joyful.
that part. Yeah. So I personally am also very excited for people to get a little treat for their ears. Make sure that you follow Kristin on whatever streaming platform you tune into. Give it a thumbs up, share it, send it to your loved ones, you know? People need to hear this song.
I love that. Thank you for being my publicist in this
Yes.
moment. I'm so grateful. And I love that it has touched you. And I'm so grateful that, I've been able to share all the versions, all the iterations with you over the last 2 years, which is just so wild. So it feels like as this song, as this album is birthed, it feels like it's a lot of it's not just mine. It's so many of ours. And there's so many like musicians that were a part of it. Like there's no AI in this album. No AI in this album. Okay. It's humans. It's like the most incredible, amazing humans with their insane gifts bringing this together. And so it's like, it feels like it's our launch. It feels like it's our album. And that is just a gift. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The Just and Joyful podcast is your host, creator, and executive producer, Kristin Carver-Smith, executive producer, Angelina Burkholder, and production engineer, Joshua James. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.